Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
CGO.
CGO or George. We are releasing this on April the 28th, 2026. Quick reminder, please like us, subscribe us. We release long form on YouTube every day, short form on Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. In today's news, we have Brentford United 2-1 in a result that almost certainly guarantees them Champions League and makes Brentford's chances at Europe a lot harder. We also have a couple Champions League fixtures going on tomorrow. Just one tomorrow. We have PSG versus Bayern, which should be exciting, and then we have Atletico Madrid versus Arsenal on Wednesday. So, George, let's start off with Brentford versus United. This game was United dominated the first 10 minutes. They scored. They had a very good chance in the first minute. I think it was Diallo dribbled through and then laid it off. I know Manu dribbled through, laid it off for Diallo, who missed it. They scored a couple minutes later with Casemiro. It was actually Brentford then was on top probably the last 80 minutes of the game. United scored a goal against the run of play with Šeško. But Brentford, both teams were creating chances. It was a very open game. Brentford scored a fantastic goal with Matthias Jensen. A couple minutes remaining. It was exciting last couple minutes. Igor Thiago missed several chances in this game. I'll say, like, he's always getting in position. I watch him every single week. He's always getting in position. There's weeks where he finishes. There's weeks where he doesn't. This is not unnormal. Against Chelsea, George watched. He got in several positions and did not finish. But that also happened today. He did not finish several very good chances. But United, I think, happy with. I think a point for both teams would have been deserved. But United walk away with all 3 points. Brentford have never gotten a point at Old Trafford. George, do you agree with my assessment of the game? Is there any particular performance that stood out to you as this was a good performance? What is your takeaways from today's game?
The game was an even game. When you look at it critically, it was an even game. It would have been won by either of the teams. The issue is that Brentford haven't won a game at Old Trafford in the Premier League era. I think the last time they got a win at Old Trafford was February of 1937. So you can see that's a very, very long time. So Old Trafford is not a good ground for them. So I wasn't surprised that they didn't get a positive result in this game because they've not always had it good whenever they go to Old Trafford. They only have good
George,
records
but in
whenever.
terms of, I don't take too much because that's like 8 games at most, like that period. And Manchester United are a good team, and at home, it's hard to win away in general. Like I don't know how much that counts in terms of today, like that superstition. But like as far as the matchups go today, is there any particular thing you think that Michael Carrick got right in terms of the game plan? I felt like he was overly conservative after that first goal, and arguably the first goal, definitely the second goal. He definitely pulled his team back. Do you feel like that was a good move?
Well,
Or do you agree with my assessment of his tactics? And if so, do you feel like
as
that's
soon as they got the second goal, Manchester United became conservative. And that was why you notice that after the second goal, Brentford created more chances than Manchester United because they were trying not to expose themselves defensively. But if you look at it, sometimes it's not always the best approach because if Brentford were clinical, especially Igor Thiago in this game, I'm sure they would have regretted that tactic. So it's
Yeah.
always good when you are leading by 2 goals to nothing. You just keep attacking. Uh, because in the Premier League, we've seen teams went 2 goals up and they bottled it. It happened to Chelsea when they played against Leeds United at the Stamford Bridge. Chelsea were 2 goals up and they bottled it.
Yeah.
So
I'll say Thiago's best chances came at 1-0. He did have a chance or two at 2-0. And I think one at 2-1. But his best chances came at 1-0. I felt that Michael Carrick pulled it even more conservative after halftime, really. Like that the second goal was pretty shortly before halftime. I think it was like 42nd minute. I think the real changes came after halftime. But like Yeah, the vast majority, Thiago had 3 or 4 really good chances that all happened in the section of the game that was 1-0. So maybe Carrick's changes help prevent that. I do feel like Matthias Jensen and Damsgaard are two players who are both capable of playing that killer pass in. He did a really good job shutting down Kevin Schade, but Keane Lewis Potter had a lot of space and honestly didn't do that much with it, but he was getting up the field quite a bit. So really interesting from Carrick that's his what he went for.
Honestly, Mikel Damsgaard was very exceptional in this game. He did very well. That was one of the players I would say was outstanding, apart from Matthias Jensen, who scored that beautiful goal from outside the box. And I think those two guys did very well for Brentford today. And then on the side of Manchester United, I'll pick out Maino. Maino was very good today. He made a lot of he did a lot of defensive work because you notice that it was when he tried to stop a Brentford attack, that was what led to the Manchester United second goal. In fact, before then, there was a kind of I think he beat about 2 or 3 Brentford players. I was able to set a chance up for Diallo, Amad Diallo. But one of Brentford's defender, I can't remember if it was Collins or is it Van der Beek that stopped the ball from getting into the net. So Maino had a very good game today. Same thing with Bruno Fernandes, who had his 19th assist of the season. So what it means is that he's just one assist away from equaling the record of Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne. So
I actually thought, I mean, Bruno's assist was great, and don't get me wrong, like it was a great play. I felt it was a more quiet game, and a quiet game from Bruno is still an elite game from almost any other player. But like, I just think the expectations of him are much higher because he's been the best Manchester United player the last 6 years, one of the best players in the Premier League. I thought it was a more quiet game from him than I typically see. He usually creates 2 or 3 chances as good as the goal he created today, and I felt like it was the only one. I think that Brentford every team tries to game plan Bruno out of the game because he's an elite player. Brentford, I feel like, did about as good of a job as you can. Just saying you're going to be quiet today, and one assist is
one thing I love about the assist is the intelligence in his decision making because if he
just
had given the ball to Brian Mbeumo, Mbeumo was already offside, but he
yeah.
knew that Benjamin Sesko was onside and he quickly gave that ball to him. And Sesko also did a very great job by trying to do a kind of a dummy, and then he was able to put the ball at the back of the net,
It was
getting
just
his
this
10th
little
Premier League.
hesitation.
Yeah,
Collins, I think it was Collins who just slid by him, and he's like, and he's just like, oh
that
yeah, I'll
was
wait for you to buy
that
me, and
was
then
a
boom.
very beautiful goal from Benjamin Sesko, and I'm happy
Sheshko was
that
also he was also
this.
pretty quiet today outside of the goal.
Yes, it's outside the goal, but the good thing is that at least as a striker, when you score goals like this, it boosts your confidence. Having
Yeah.
his 10th Premier League goal for the season is something that would encourage him at least when it comes to confidence because we knew the way Chesko struggled when he joined Manchester United, especially under Ruben Amorim. But I think under Carrick, he has done very well. And even Casemiro also did very well because now he has scored in the last 3 home games Manchester United has played at Old Trafford. Now he has
I will say
9 Premier League goals, which is quite impressive.
Casemiro at the end of the game, there was 2 instances of Brentford had free kicks where Nathan Collins just like touched Casemiro on the back, and Casemiro dives. And good for Casemiro, he gets the call both times, but it was very, very weak. I feel like it's something that Casemiro is laughing about in the locker room because it helps, ease off some pressure out of his team. But I felt that it was a very poor reflection on the state of refereeing that he got referee to buy that twice because it was very weak. Another player who I thought had a very good game was Lemons. I think he's been really solid. I never thought Onana was a Manchester United level goalkeeper, and like the fact that they've switched to Lemons this year and he's been I feel like he was the difference between 1 point. There were several Manchester United players who put in a shift to made the difference between 1 point and 3 points, but he was one of them. He made several good saves. I was talking about Thiago's missed chances, and Thiago could have done better on a couple of these, but Lemons also did fantastic on many of these, and it was just a great game. And I just overall, outside of the performances, this was an exciting game. This was well worked. There were several times in the game, if you were really watching and paying attention, you could see both teams shift in strategy and shape and where they were trying to push the ball through. There's instances where Brentford were going through Dango. There's instances where United were trying to go through Mbuemo, where they would switch because the space was on the other side. There's instances where the subs completely changed the shape of these teams. Again, Carrick went more conservative as the game went on. It was just both teams, as much as they could, were going for it within the framework of their strategy. It was just a really exciting end-to-end game.
No, honestly, Thiago was supposed to have a hat trick today if he had been very clinical in this game, because I couldn't understand why he couldn't take those chances. I was really, I was very surprised that is this the ego Thiago that I know. Honestly, it was very
George,
disappointing from him.
I watch him week in, week out, and I feel like there's a big misconception. Like a great striker puts himself into positions often to score. And Thiago did that, let's say 4 times this game, and he missed them all. That's fine. Like statistically, you're going to have games like this where you just miss a bunch, and you're going to have games where you score all 4, like he did earlier this year against Everton. He scored 5 goals against Everton this year. It's just the reality of striking, and it's just it's very rare to have a striker who gets 1 chance, 1 goal. That's just not something that's super common statistically, and that the Messi is the only player who can, how do I say, consistently finish like crazy amounts, crazy consistently on finishing and get in good positions. It's a great striker is much more about getting in a good position than it is actual finishing ability.
But Joe,
Though both are important.
I would like to ask you a funny question. Now, remember, in Brentford has only won 1 game in their last 7 Premier League games. And I know out of the 7 last game in the Premier League, they only got 1 win. Then I think they played 5 draws, and then now against Manchester United, that's the 1 loss they've gotten in their last 7 games. Would you still call them the best club in in the Premier League, like you normally say on this show?
George, I think people who know me know that I am being facetious. When it comes to being the best club, for me, George, football is about connection to the club and community, and I have a personal connection to Brentford as a place I visited. I've met several of the leadership, including Clive Cook, who is the chairman, and John Varney, and I met Aaron Hickey and Josh Silva. I have a personal connection with this team, and for me, it will always be the best in the sense of, George, you think your daughter is the best 4-year-old out there in the world because you see her every day and you love her. There's some differences. This analogy does break down, but your daughter objectively is not the best 4-year-old in the world. If you're looking at it, all the millions of 4-year-olds. I like Brentford the most. In my sense, it is I have a personal connection with this club, and for me, that's what football is about. Which is why I can often be critical about big teams, because I feel like a lot of people support big teams not for that reason. And I like to tease people like who do
So I
support
have
big
one more
clubs.
question for you on Brentford, because you know you are a very strong Brentford supporter. Now, the question I have for you is, now, which team would you pick? The team of Keith Andrews and the one by Thomas Frank. Which one would you rate higher?
In terms of, I mean, Thomas Frank was manager for many years. This team of Keith Andrews would destroy any championship team. And this team and Thomas Frank he was our manager, I think, for 4 years in the Premier League. He had 2 seasons that were kind of like not great. We were comfortably safe, but not a great team. I think we got 14th both years, and we had 2 years where we were very good. And I would put this Keith Andrews team about even, maybe a little bit above those 2 Brentford teams, and probably well above any other team coached by Thomas Frank. So it's fantastic to see the progression as a club, and I'm excited to see us continue to progress. And another instance today, I was texting my Man United friend, or my Brentford friend. I was saying that today was an instance where Coyote is clearly on the path to being an elite player. He's the Nigerian Yoruba who was born in Italy. But I still feel like he's a young player. I think he's 21. I still feel like he's a year away, 2 years away from a big move because he's had several defensive mistakes today, and I think it was the left wing of Manchester United was burning him. So interesting. We'll talk more, George. Let's move on. Last couple minutes. Bayern versus PSG. I think the perception here is that this will be the more exciting tie. I
Yes.
personally am excited to see this over 180 minutes, where 90 minutes is in Paris, 90 minutes is in Munich. I feel like generally semifinals tend to be more exciting than finals because there's home crowd. There's 180 minutes. There's more opportunity for actual football. Finals tend to be a little bit more too rigid because teams are afraid to make mistakes because you don't have that much time to recover. Semifinals, very exciting, very awesome. I think this could go either way. These are the best two teams in Europe. Whoever comes out of this will be heavily favored against Arsenal or Atletico. I think it'll be really interesting tomorrow. I personally have Bayern. I think they're going to win this tie. Tomorrow's game, is it in Paris? It is in Paris.
Yes, in Paris.
I think maybe tomorrow ends in a draw and then Bayern Munich win at home. George, what do you think?
The last 6 games, both sides have encountered each other. Uh, Bayern Munich won 5, and then PSG won 1. And that was at the Club World Cup. If you remember that game they played against Bayern Munich. So Bayern Munich has have been more dominant against PSG in the Champions League. But the issue is that when you look at this PSG team, um, remember, they played Bayern in the league phase of this season's Champions League. They're at Paris, and it ended 2 goals to 1 in favor of Bayern Munich. Even though Bayern Munich even got a red card, I remember Luis Diaz got a red card in that game for a very bad tackle he made. Despite that, Bayern still won. So it's going to be a very tough game because the PSG that played then I was not informed. The PSG now, they are now in good form. That will make it a very interesting game. It's going to be a very tight game. But if you ask me, I feel Bayern still has that cutting edge, even though PSG is a very resilient team and most of their players are very hardworking. They know how to press very high. That's one good thing.
I think that the general consensus is Bayern has one of the best attacks we've seen the
Yes.
last 10 years. I mean, we have Messi, Suarez, Neymar, which I think was one of the best attacks I've seen. Messi via Pedro was also fantastic. But I think that this Bayern team is right up there. Olise, Kane, Diaz, exceptional. I think Bayern midfield is good, but I think that Vitinha is probably the best midfielder out of these two teams combined. Neuer has. There's been occasions this year where he's looked his age. He's looked 40. He is still exceptional for his age, but there's been occasions where he has, and PSG as a keeper that is not. I mean, is not going to make those types of mistakes, and possibly even has a better midfield and defense in general. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think we'll see a lot of goals because Bayern has scored more goals, I think, than any other team in Bundesliga history this year. Sometimes they've needed to. Sometimes it's just their attack is that good. So I think this will be an exciting game.
Yeah, because when you look at the attack of PSG, if you compare it with the attack of Bayern Munich has Luis Diaz in front. They have Michael Olise. They have Harry Kane. And then when you look at PSG, the front three, you have Ousmane Dembele, you have Desiree Doué, and then you also have Keller. So those when you do the comparison, the Bayern attack looks much dangerous than that of PSG. Maybe if you come to the midfield, that's where we say, okay, PSG has some cutting edge. Especially when you look at players like Vitinha, you look at Yao Neves. These are wonderful players who can control the game, dictate the pace of the game, and they are very creative as well. That's just the midfield is where I feel PSG has that edge over Bayern. But when it comes to
Whenever I watch Vitinha, I'm like, this guy is everywhere. Like he's like Conti level of like he's everywhere. He's like Iniesta level of like controlling the game,
Yes,
controlling the
yes,
ball. he's just exceptional. He's not the best when the ball's in the air, but like if you're that like, but he's everywhere, and he has four lungs. He's just so good, and he's just a joy to watch. Just such so smooth, and like he's a type of player that like you love playing with because he's always available to pass it to you. You can give him a bad pass, and he'll be able to control it and pass it off. It's just I just love watching players like that. So I'm
It's going
excited
to
to see
be a
it.
very tough game, and that game would determine tomorrow's game would determine who would most likely go through. Uh, but for me, I feel Bayern has an edge, but that doesn't mean PSG can't win the game. PSG can win, but I
Yeah,
think I put Bayern ahead of PSG for
like
this
I
time.
said, over 180 minutes, it just could come down to one or two moments of quality, where Harry Kane does something only Harry Kane can do, or Ousmane Dembele does something only Ousmane Dembele can do. So, 180 minutes is a long time to have a really exciting football. It's not so long that one moment of quality can't be the difference, as it has been in many of these Champions League semifinals. George, let me close out with their standard questions. First off, is there a standout player in United versus Brentford? George and I have talked about this. And number two, who do you have between Bayern and Atletico? Do you agree with George and I? And third, do you agree with George and I that the winner, or sorry, Bayern versus PSG? Do you agree with George and I that the winner tomorrow will win the Champions League? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for listening.